market work. And on that basis, the places that are geologically safe, according to science, and where the people say the deal's a good one, will decide where we put this stuff. That's the right course for America.
Governor Perry?
You know, from time to time, Mitt and I don't agree, but on this one, he's hit the nail right on the head. And I'll just add that when you think about France, who gets over 70% of their energy from nuclear power, the idea that they deal with this issue, that their glassification and that the innovation, and Congressman Paul, you're correct when it comes to allowing the states to compete with each other. That is the answer to this. We need to have a discussion in this country about our 10th Amendment and the appropriateness of it as it's been eroded by Washington, D.C. for all these many years, whether it's health care, whether it's education, or whether it's dealing with energy. We don't need to be subsidizing energy in any form or fashion. Allow the states to make the decision, and some state out there will see the economic issue, and they will have it in their state.
We're going to move on to an issue very important here in the state of Nevada and throughout the West. We have a question from the hall.
Yeah, my question is, those of us who own property here in Nevada have been devastated by the real estate bubble. What would you do as president to help fix the overall problem of real estate and foreclosures in America?
Senator Santorum, Nevada has the highest rate of foreclosure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a situation right now where obviously the market's has been decimated. And so now you're looking at how do you repair. The problem is, in the first place, is that several people up here, the quote business people, supported the TARP, supported the bailout. Governors Perry, Romney. No, you wrote a letter on the day of the vote. You wrote a letter on the day of the vote, Governor, saying to vote for the plan. That's what I mean. The letter's been. Yes, you did, Governor. Joe Manchin signed it with you. So you supported it. Governor Romney and Herman Cain all supported the TARP program, which started this ball rolling. Yeah, I mean, you guys complain about Governor Romney flip-flopping. I mean, look at what's going on here. I mean, the bottom line is you all supported it. You all started this ball rolling where the government injected itself in trying to try to fix the market with the government top-down trying to do it and manage decline. And what happened was people who did things that were wrong, invested in things, took risks, were bailed out, and the folks who acted responsibly are now getting hurt because their houses have gone down in value. We need to let the market work, and that's what hasn't been happening so far.
I got to allow each three of you to respond. So, Governor Perry, you have 30 seconds.
The fact is, Rick just has that wrong. We wrote a letter to Congress asking them to act. What we meant by acting was cut the regulations, cut the taxation burden, not passing TARP. There is clearly a letter out of our office that says that, Rick. I'll get you a copy of it so you'll understand it.
Okay, hold on. I need to respond to that. He sent a letter the day of the vote on the floor of the House saying pass the economic plan. There was only one plan, and that was the plan that was voted on the floor. It was TARP. You sent a letter on that day saying vote for that plan. Now, you can send a letter later saying I didn't mean it, but when you said it, it was the only plan that was in play, and that was the TARP plan.
Governor Perry, do you want to respond, Governor Perry?
I'm just telling you, I know what we sent. I know what the intention was. You can read it any way you want, but the fact of the matter, I wasn't for TARP, and have talked about it for years since then.
Governor Romney, afterwards. 30 seconds.
There's an effort on the part of people in Washington to think somehow they know better than markets how to rebalance America's economy. And the idea of the federal government running around and saying, hey, we're gonna give you some money for trading in your old car, or we're gonna give you a few $1,000s for buying a new house, or we're gonna keep banks from foreclosing if you can't make your payments. These kinds of actions on the part of government haven't worked. The right course is to let markets work. And in order to get markets to work and to help people, the best thing we can do is to get the economy going. And that's why the fundamental restructuring I've described is so essential to help homeowners and people across this country.
Mr. Cain, I wanted you to be able to respond. 30 seconds.
I have said before that we were in a crisis at the end of 2008 with this potential financial meltdown. I supported the concept of TARP. But then when this administration used discretion and did a whole lot of things that the American people didn't like, I was then against it. So yes, and I'm honing up to that. Now, getting back to the gentleman's question in terms of what we need to do, we need to get government out of the way. It starts with making sure that we can boost this economy, and then reform Dodd-Frank and reform a lot of these other regulations that have gotten in the way, and let the market do it just like Mitt has talked about.
Congresswoman Bachmann, does the federal government have a role in keeping people in their homes, saving people from foreclosure in the state of Nevada?
That was the question that was initially asked, and what I want to say is this. Every day I'm out somewhere in the United States of America, and most of the time I am talking to moms across this country. When you talk about housing, when you talk about foreclosures, you're talking about women who are at the end of their rope because they're losing their nest for their children and for their family. And there are women right now all across this country and moms across this country whose husbands, through no fault of their own, are losing their job and they can't keep that house. And there are women who are losing that house. I'm a mom. I talk to these moms. I just want to say one thing to moms all across America tonight. This is a real issue. It's got to be solved. President Obama has failed you on this issue of housing and foreclosures. I will not fail you on this issue. I will turn this country around. We will turn the economy around. We will create jobs. That's how you hold on to your house. Hold on, moms out there. It's not too late.
We have another question. This one is a Twitter question. How do you explain the Occupy Wall Street movement happening across the country, and how does it relate with your message? Herman, Cain, I got to ask you, you said, quote, don't blame, 2 weeks ago, you said, don't blame Wall Street, don't blame the big banks. If you don't have a job and you're not rich, blame yourself. That was 2 weeks ago. The movement has grown. Do you still say that?
Yes, I do still say that. And here's why. I still stand by my statement, and here's why. They might be frustrated with Wall Street and the bankers, but they're directing their anger at the wrong place. Wall Street didn't put in failed economic policies. Wall Street didn't spend $1 trillion that didn't do any good. Wall Street isn't going around the country trying to sell another $450 billion. They ought to be over in front of the White House taking out their frustration. So I do stand by that.
Congressman Paul, you've been... Congressman Paul, you've been critical of Governor Romney for holding fundraisers with Wall Streeters. Do you think he understands what the protest is about? Do you understand?
Well, I think Mr. Cain has blamed the victims. There's a lot of people that are victims of this business cycle. We can't blame the victims, but we also have to point. I'd go to Washington as well as Wall Street, but I'd go over to the Federal Reserve. They create the financial bubbles, and you have to understand that. You can't solve these problems if you don't know where these bubbles come from. But then when the bailout came, and supported by both parties, you have to realize, 2008, Republicans were still in charge, so the bailouts came from both parties. Guess who they bailed out? The big corporations, the people who were ripping off the people in the derivatives market, and they said, oh, the world's going to come to an end unless we bail out all the banks. So the banks were involved, and the Federal Reserve was involved, but who got stuck? The middle class got stuck. They got stuck. They lost their jobs, and they lost their houses. If you had to give money out, you should have given it to the people who were losing their mortgages, not to the banks.
Mr. Cain, do you want to respond? He referenced you, so if you want to respond, you have 30 seconds.
All I want to say is that Representative Paul is partly right, but he's mixing problems here. It's more than one problem. Look, the people, the banks, and the businesses on Wall Street, yes. The way that was administered was not right. But my point is this. What are the people who are protesting want from bankers on Wall Street? To come downstairs and write them a check? This is what we don't understand. Go and get to the source of the problem is all I'm saying.
I got to give you 30 seconds, and then we'll go to Governor Romney.
Yes, the argument is the program was okay, but it was mismanaged. But I work on the assumption that government's not very capable of managing almost anything, so you shouldn't put that much trust into government. You have to trust the marketplace, and when the government gets involved, they have to deal with fraud. And how many people have gone to jail, either in the government, Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, that participated in this, and nobody suffers the consequences? All these investigations, and yet the people who lose their jobs and lose their houses, it's their fault, that's why they're on Wall Street, and we can't blame them. We have to blame the business cycle and the economic policies that led to this disaster.
Governor Romney, You originally called the protests dangerous. You said it was class warfare. You recently sounded more sympathetic. Where do you stand now? What is your message to those people protesting?
Well, we can spend our time talking about what happened 3 years ago and what the cause was of our collapse. But let's talk about what's happened over the last 3 years. We've had a president responsible for this economy for the last 3 years, and he's failed us. He's failed us in part because he has no idea how the private sector works or how to create jobs. On every single issue, he's made it harder for our economy to reboot. And as a result, we have 25 million Americans out of work, or stop looking for work, or in part-time work and can't get full-time employment. Home values going down. You have median income in America that in the last 3 years has dropped by 10%. Americans are hurting across this country, and the president's out there campaigning. Why isn't he governing? He doesn't understand. He doesn't have a jobs plan even now. This is a critical time for America, and I can tell you that this is time to have someone who understands how the economy works, who can get America working again. Instead of dividing and blaming as this president is, let's grow America again and have jobs that are the envy of the world. And I know how to do it.
We got to take a quick break. We're going to continue right on the other side. We'll be right back. Republican presidential debate live from the Venetian in Las Vegas. As you watch the debate tonight, send us your comments and questions for the candidates on Twitter. Use the hashtag CNNDebate. Also contact us on Facebook and CNN.com. When we come back, the right to bear arms and should a candidate's faith matter? We'll be right back. Welcome back to the CNN GOP debate, live from the Venetian in Las Vegas. Let's continue. We've got an email question that was left to CNNPolitics.com. This is from a Mike Richards, who says, with the controversy surrounding Robert Jeffress, is it acceptable to let the issue of a candidate's faith shape the debate? Senator Santorum, this is in reference to a Baptist pastor who, at the Values Voter Summit, after introducing Governor Rick Perry, said that Mitt Romney is not a Christian and that Mormonism is a cult. Those were his words. Should voters pay attention to a candidate's religion?
I think they should pay attention to the candidate's values, what the candidate stands for. That's what's at play, and the person's faith. And you look at that faith and what the faith teaches with respect to morals and values that are reflected in that person's belief structure. So those are important things. I'm a Catholic. Catholic has social teachings. Catholic has teachings as to what's right and what's wrong. And those are legitimate things for voters to look at, to say if you're a faithful Catholic, which I try to be, fall short all the time, but I try to be, and it's a legitimate thing to look at as to what the tenets and teachings of that faith are with respect to how you live your life and how you would govern this country. With respect to what is the road to salvation, that's a whole different story. That's not applicable to what the role is of being the president or a senator or any other job.
Speaker Gingrich, do you agree with that?
Well, I think if the question is, does faith matter? Absolutely. How can you have a country which is founded on truths, which begins, we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights? How can you have the Northwest Ordinance of 1787, which says religion, morality, and knowledge being important, education matters? That's the order. Religion, morality, and knowledge. Now, I happen to think that none of us should rush in judgment of others in the way in which they approach God. And I think that all of us up here, I believe, would agree. But I think all of us would also agree that there's a very central part of your faith in how you approach public life. And I, frankly, would be really worried if somebody assured me that nothing in their faith would affect their judgments, because then I'd wonder, where's your judgment? How can you have judgment if you have no faith? And how can I trust you with power if you don't pray? Who you pray to, how you come close to God is between you and God. But the notion that you're endowed by your Creator sets a certain boundary on what we mean by America.
Governor Perry, Mitt Romney asked you to repudiate the comments of that pastor who introduced you on that stage. He didn't make the comments on the stage. He made them afterwards.